So Mike, I can guarantee for this video, I can tell you one person that won't watch it.
Who's
Guess
that?
who?
Oh,
Mason Rudolph. That's who. Because we back team recap. We talking about the Cleveland Browns. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I wasn't ready for that intro. I'll be completely honest, but I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. And Mason Rudolph, if you watching, what's up?
Speaking of doing pretty good, Mike, I'm just gonna pass it right to you. I feel like we could talk about this for 10, 20 minutes. What are your general thoughts on the Browns draft class?
I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, which I kind of probably did there, because I know you like this class a lot. But to get Jedrick Wills, who might be the best tackle in the class at pick 10, steal. Delpit, steal, value, and a position of need. And I think one of the biggest deals of the late round, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, and that might seem a little biased. I actually live in Ann Arbor, but just pure athletic standpoint of Donovan Peoples-Jones, like obviously the combine freaks we always have a problem with, but when you pick one of those combine freaks in round 6, not a problem at all. That man was an absolute animal. He destroyed the combine. If you watched him on the field, yes, he lacked production, but think about some of the quarterbacks he played with in college, like Shea Patterson. Like he undrafted free agent. He was one of the last ones to get picked up that was even really draft eligible. Man, it's just what that system they're running in Ann Arbor's trash. And he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, out of Cass Tech, which me and you seen him play at Ford Field if you remember. But to take a swing on a player like that late, absolute. That's just what we love. I think me and you both appreciate when teams take those late round swings at players like that could kind of produce. And if they get the chance, they might perform. They might actually turn out to be something more than a 6th-round pick and actually make the freaking roster.
No, I agree. You actually did steal some of my thunder there. I was gonna shout out the time that we went and saw Donovan Peoples-Jones like 5 years ago coming out of Cass Tech. The man he was a beast then, went to Michigan, kind of I don't want to say fell off, but as you said, you kind of put it best. The production wasn't there, but taking a flyer on that in the 6th round, especially when you could really use like a third receiver if somebody is going to step up, that's just a great pick. And then Nick Harris going from there to get him in the 5th round. 4 months ago, the man was considered a second, 3rd-round pick. I think that he's a potential starter in the NFL, honestly. And you don't need him to start right now, but he'll make for a really solid backup center or potentially maybe a backup guard for right now, and then could step into that starting role here at some point. To get him in the 5th round, that's a great pick. Harrison Bryant, I'll be completely honest, I had him as my 2nd highest graded tight end after Cole Kmet. He's not a great run blocker, and sometimes his hands are a little bit questionable, but the man is he's a great athlete. He didn't play the best competition, but even going against who he played, because he doesn't have control of that, obviously, like he was just breaking big plays. He was running crisp routes. He was the embodiment of kind of what I would want in a 4th-round tight end, honestly. And then from there, Jordan Elliott, to get him in the 3rd round, I wasn't a huge fan of some of like his technique. I think he's pretty raw, but man, like you look at this dude and he looks like he was made in a lab. Like he's an absolute physical specimen. And, he had a lot of splash plays at Missouri. And really on this defense that we're gonna get to in a little bit, if he's just playing in that kind of rotational defensive tackle role, having a guy that you could put in on maybe 3rd downs and just get a huge play out of, that is pretty invaluable. And then it just keeps getting better, Mike. Those top 2, man. I think that you could really argue that they got the best safety and the best tackle, and they picked at 10 and 44. Grant Delpit, we've talked about him in previous videos, going over like Antoine Winfield and Xavier McKinney, but just the range that Grant Delpit has as kind of that deep third, deep half, whatever you want to use him as, that deep free safety. Just the man he's an absolute ball hawk. He's a freak athlete. Sure, all I heard throughout the entire process was, oh, Grant Delpit can't tackle. He's so scared to tackle. If you are expecting your free safety to get 100 tackles or something in a season, then you need to fire your defensive coordinator and get a new scheme. This man is the last line of defense for a reason, and he's there to stop guys from taking the top off the defense, and he is the perfect free safety to me for the modern NFL, honestly. And I really can't believe that he slipped into round 2, because to me he's the exact kind of prototype that you would have seen go in kind of the mid-teens, honestly. I realized it was kind of a stacked year, but I didn't think that was going to push him into the 40s. And then Jedrick Wills, you just want to talk about a complete prospect. When we were going over the Andrew Thomases and Tristan Wirfs of the world, I was kind of pointing to different holes in their game. There's really nothing to point at for Wills. He might be the most NFL-ready tackle prospect that I've scouted in my entire life, honestly. The man's an absolute technician. He has great feet. He has great hands. He's good in, run blocking as well. The man's an absolute monster. I don't even know what you can say for that, besides the fact that it's a miracle that he was available at 10. Most years the man would be gone at 3 or 4. The only detriment is that he plays right tackle instead of left. Other than that, I don't have much else to say about this draft, Mike.
No, I think you hit it all, but obviously it doesn't matter about who they drafted. It's about them actually making the team, making an impact. So let's get into it.
So getting right into it, obviously there's not much movement in their weapons. Austin Hooper is a big signing. But to me, the big additions here are Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin. One thing that I've kind of been banging my fist on the table for the last couple of years is that you're going to get Baker Mayfield killed if he has to keep playing behind Greg Robinson and Chris Hubbard and these absolute turnstiles at tackle. So, Mike, how much do you think that the addition of 2 incredibly talented tackles, how much do you think that adds to this offense?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think Baker Mayfield really showed how much he disappointed when he was under pressure. And so you go out in free agency and get a top 5 right tackle. I think he's probably top 3, but I'll top 5 to be safe. Get Jedrick Wills, debatably the best tackle in the draft. How you went from Robinson and Hubbard to this is gotta love it, Browns. Hopefully the Lions can follow suit one of these times.
No, honestly, you have to love it, because when you look at this, and really this team, as we'll get to in a minute here, I really think that it is almost they've built almost the perfect team for the modern NFL. I question the order that they went about it. They probably drafted a quarterback a year too early, and they addressed tackle a year or two too late. But really, this is kind of what I want. You have just an elite array of weapons. You have potentially a top 5 offensive line at this point, honestly. And you have a young quarterback who's still on a rookie deal. You have a ton of cap space. I think they still have $37 million cap space. It's not like you're a team paying 30, 35, 40 million to your quarterback position. Like, this is just, to me, it's crazy to say, but it's been elite roster management that's got us to this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the big question on offense is the quarterback position. Baker Mayfield, obviously he had that. It came through a little bit rookie season. We were seeing potential, and then last year kind of bombed. But how much of that was he was facing constant pressure, and the team just wasn't competitive. So hopefully he can keep his head on straight, and the tackles and this offensive line can kind of help him ease into it, get in the pocket, and actually make these throws to obviously Beckham, Landry, and then Chubb absolutely just came through last year for him. So if they can put that combination together with all the weapons kind of working like a well-tuned machine, then we might see something. This might be a little scary team.
It might be a little scary, and I don't really see how anyone could argue that the offense is scary. I think that some questions come in when you look at the defense. So, Mike, what are your general thoughts on this defense?
Yeah, I'll start with the front four. I think it's solid, to say the least. I think Myles Garrett has proven himself. When he's not swinging helmets, that man's an absolute animal. He's a tank. He really is. He gets to the quarterback, and he does it at an efficient rate. Larry Ojibwe, I think they do both kind of question that pick when he came out of the draft. It wasn't a bad pick, but it definitely, I think we both thought there was better players on the board. He's come around and been a solid player for them. Absolutely solid player for them. He's not going to be that D tackle that makes those splash plays like Jones, Donalds, and Grady Jarrett. But he's a solid foundation. He's a space eater. He stops the run. He has a good amount of pass rush in him. And to pair that with Sheldon Richardson, I think it's a cool combo. I really do. I think it's a really solid combo. And then to sign someone like Andrew Billings to back it up, who me and you, I think he's just been undervalued and underutilized with the Bengals. And then Jordan Elliott, as we said, from the draft. I think it's a really cool combo. And I'll talk about 2 more kind of players. Mack Wilson, I thought that was an absolute steal. If you watched him, big knock on a lot of linebackers coming out of the draft is they can't cover. Mack Wilson was a pro at covering that the tight ends, the running backs coming out of the backfield. So the point when he slipped to I think it was the 5th or 6th round, it was kind of disrespectful. That was one of my players I just didn't understand. And last year he showed there was no reason he slipped as far as he did. And last, I know I've been talking a lot, but this safety duo I think is a really cool combination because, as we've said, maybe Delpit can't tackle. He's your last line of protection, but Carl Joseph likes to tackle. If you some of his highlights at West Virginia, man, that man likes to put his helmet down and just go for the kill. So I think it is a really cool combination of a true strong safety and a true free safety, back third, back half kind of player. So I think that is a really cool little combo.
No, I agree. I think that if Larry Ogunjobi is your worst defensive lineman, that's a good problem to have. Like he is such a solid guy that just is kind of a plug-and-play player. And really that entire 4-man rotation they have there. Some teams don't even have starters to the caliber of Billings and Elliott, and they're your 2 rotational guys. And to put them inside of Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon, 2 just elite pass rushers, I feel like a lot of people kind of sleep on Vernon, but that man is still producing and at a pretty high level too. When you look at the linebacking core, sure, there's some questions. Obviously, you lose Joe Schobert, but if I'm going to have a weakness on my defense, I want it to be my linebacking core because I can elevate them by just having an elite D line. Having guys who can take on double teams and not get washed down the line of scrimmage, and who can create gaps and holes for these players to fill and make plays. And I really do think that, sure, that's like their team's weakness. But if your weaknesses are, Sione or Jacob Phillips, like that's not a bad weakness to have. And then to back that up with Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams, 2 young, super promising corners. I shouldn't even say Denzel Ward's promising at this point. He's kind of in the middle of it now. He's kind of fulfilling some of those promises. And Greedy, I wouldn't be shocked if he follows suit. I think that he was underdrafted coming out of LSU. I think that this year we might see big things from him. And then, like you said, that safety deal, that's the perfect prototypes for a free safety and a strong safety. It's just from top to bottom, it's the way I would build a defense, So kind of what I'm seeing here is they have an offense the way I'd build an offense. They have a defense the way I'd build a defense. Let's go into the schedule, Mike. What do you think this team's going to do in 2020? Vegas has the win total set at 8 games, but I think on paper I'm taking the over, and I'm taking it pretty easily. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, and if you guys watched the last video, I shit on the Steelers a little bit, probably a little harder than I actually feel. Probably just the emotions coming over me, but this team is right there with them. I think this is a real competition for that second spot in the division. And I think that we very likely could see both of the Steelers and the Browns making playoffs in that wild card spot. So some games I'm looking to watch. I'm going to say week 4 against the Cowboys. And I think we use this game a lot whenever you see Cowboys on the schedule. But that's a solid defense. And let's see how this offense can perform. Because obviously we said the talent there. This could be a scary offense. Let's see how it performs against debatably a top 5 defense. I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. And I think another fun game, I'm going to go, and I'm going to probably take this one from you, Week 17 Steelers. That could have huge playoff intentions right there. That could be a huge game. That it might turn prime time by the time the season's over because I think it's going to be a really competitive race. And I'm just going to say it. Are Ravens really locked to be that first in the division? I don't think so. I think we could see some surprises. I still think the Ravens are my favorite they are my favorite in the division, but I think it could be a little closer than most people would like to admit. But I think that's going to be a really fun game. It's going to have some big playoff intentions, I'm hoping, Week 17.
No, I think that another good one in division is going to be Week 1 right out of the gate against the Ravens. I think that, a lot of those Ravens pieces are new in the Calais Campbells. They lost Marshall Yanda. They have some new guys in there, whereas this Browns team is mostly the same outside of just 2 huge upgrades at tackle. So I think that that'll be a really interesting test for Baltimore. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Cleveland was maybe able to go there and get an upset Week 1. And then in terms of another one that I find interesting is I'll kind of take your NFC East pick and the Cowboys and raise it with the Eagles. I think that the Eagles are just a really good matchup for this team. We look at kind of the Browns front four, that Eagles offensive line. We talked about the addition of Jalen Reagor and that dynamic Eagles passing game, and then you have the young and potentially really, really good secondary that Cleveland has here, as well as on the other side, obviously, we have the Odell Beckhams versus Darius Slays. You have Nick Chubb versus that fantastic front four of the Eagles. And then, in the past, you have the Derek Barnetts, Brandon Grahams, Fletcher Cox. Those guys are going to be a perfect test for this new and improved offensive line. So at the end of the day, I think that those would probably be my top two. But really, I think the discussion here is, like you said, are the Ravens a lock? Obviously, on paper, I think that they're the favorites. They have the highest projected win total in terms of like Vegas odds in the entire league. But I wouldn't be shocked if Cleveland came in here at 10, maybe even 11 wins. And honestly, I just wonder if everybody was a bit like a year too early on the Browns. Coming into last year, I feel like everybody was saying, "Oh, Cleveland could be a Super Bowl team." And when you look at the roster, it just didn't make sense, especially with those holes at tackle. But now that those holes have mostly been addressed, I kind of do look at this team as maybe one of the top tier teams in the AFC. We've talked in previous videos about how much stronger the AFC has got. And I think that this is a prime example of it. You might have a 10-11 win wildcard team in Cleveland who really doesn't have that many holes. So I think it'll be a really interesting team to follow. And yeah, Mike, do you have anything else? Or
I think all I have to say is hopefully you guys are watching these videos. And if you are and you enjoy them, like we actually are enjoying the Cleveland Browns roster, leave a like, comment, subscribe. And, we're just here to spread football knowledge across the galaxy. So if maybe you're a fan of the Ravens and you say, hey, Mike and Mike, we want to see a video about the Ravens. Who are we going to do next?
As you said last video, I think we're actually doing the Ravens next, Mike. So yeah, we'll do Baltimore.
Who would have guessed we're doing the Ravens? But we'll do it. We will do the Ravens. That's what we're here for you guys. So, Mike, do you have anything else?
Nah, man, I think we mic'd up, and now we mic'ing out.
Doses.